empty the chain, run. And how do you do that? We're 6 seconds, put 8-point beat, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to Scoop Order Live Sunday night after a pretty incredible Sunday of NFL football. We've got the end of the Bengals season. It was a pretty rough one. Nevada and I are going to weigh in on that. I know a lot of you Bengals fans are hurting right now. I love Sam Hubbard. I'll be honest with you, Von Bell. Those are some of the greatest kids in the world, so I hurt for them right now. But man, what a dumb penalty at the end of that game. I mean, as much as you want to talk about the Chiefs getting a lot of the calls and the Bengals getting jobbed, that penalty at the end was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my entire life of football. It was up there with the G. Scott penalty against Michigan in terms of momentum and everything, but really bad stuff. Feel for the Bengals. We're talking a little bit about a kid that was on campus this weekend taking official visits. He'd be a humongous get, and we're going to see where that stands as of tonight. So, that being said, as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys tuning in. It's Sunday night. I know a lot of you guys are heated up right now after the Bengals season came to an end, after it seems like they got jobbed. So thanks for joining us. Bring those questions in the chat. Leave us a like. Subscribe to the page. We're getting really close to our next benchmark of 17.8. We're about 5 away. So if you haven't subscribed yet, we appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys for being here with us. Start getting those questions into the chat. We'll get to those. We're going to take you guys through an official visit, which is really fun. Kind of see behind the scenes stuff, some of the crazy stuff that goes on. Some of the meals look really good, and you can see why these coaches tend to get fat around this time of the season, because if they eat these meals every weekend, oh boy, you better hit the cardio machines. With that being said, I am going to bring in my good friend Joseph Asai. Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you today? Do not hit Pat Mahomes out of bounds, please.
Yeah, that was rough, man. Because it's like, as bad as the calls were, like you said, there was some really questionable stuff going on, and we can go through a litany of calls. And the game really came down to that one play, and there was really no doubt. There was a no doubter. You can't do what he did. And Mahomes really sold it. Mahomes sold it like he was dead and threw his arms up and let the ball go out and lay down there. Because Mahomes, I really dislike Mahomes, but that was a really dumb penalty. That was a really, really, really dumb penalty and a tough way to lose. Because I thought if the game went to overtime, it's a coin flip. You got a chance to win that thing. And, hey, I had a big bet on the under. So I was under 48.5. So I was pretty happy about it from that standpoint. But as a Bengals fan, I'm not a Bengals fan. I'm a Browns fan. But I was rooting hard for the Bengals today. And, boy, that was hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he sold that, and I was like, my God, is he Ric Flair, or like what level of sell? He's like when one of the guys gets hit with like the Stone Cold Stunner, and then they do like a backflip coming off the rebound when they get hit with it. And it's like, I was like, what an amazing sell by Mahomes. And then the funny thing is, the defensive end grabbed his knee like he tore his ACL, and like that was gonna like that was gonna stop the referee from going like this and throwing the flag up in the air. But I feel bad because like I don't really have like an NFL team that I'm like a diehard fan of, because I root for like Cam Hayward, and I root for Sam Hubbard and Von Bell, like the kids that I know. There's not many left that I played with, but I played with Cam obviously as a teammate. So it's like I was rooting hard for the Bengals because like Sam Hubbard is like, he's like a prince of a kid. He's one of the nicest kids you could ever meet. He's had a great year. He gets that big fumble recovery. And, and if I don't have any other reason to root for, I root for, I'd love for one of my guys to get a Super Bowl ring just because they're such good kids. And for that to be the way it went down, and, you're thinking, okay, hold them here, overtime. I did like the punt, like right in the middle of the field. I mean, sometimes I watch these NFL coaches, man, and I'm just like, holy cow, man, how do these guys get to be the guys that call the plays? And some of these plays are just, they're just idiotic. I mean, sometimes like when they threw the one deep ball, it was like 3rd and 3, and they throw it over the top, and I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking like if it's 3rd and 3, I'm like, well, I got 2 downs to get 3 yards. So run a fullback dive twice, you can probably get 3 yards, probably, or just do something, whatever. But they throw it over the top, and sometimes I feel like they're just playing for a defensive pass interference or a holding call or something to bail them out. But yeah, it was tough. I felt bad for Sam and Vaughn. But what do you think of the Phantom stoppage call on third down where they got to redo the down. I've never seen that before. That was like some Colorado, Michigan fifth down stuff. But what did you think of that call?
Well, I was a lot more angry about it until they showed the one angle where they show the guy kind of coming in to blow the play dead or whatever because the play stopping. But that was rough, man. That was rough. It's a good thing that didn't end up costing them. And because Kansas City didn't score on that possession. Obviously, you can talk about how much time was left and things like that. But that didn't end up costing them the game. I mean, really, what ended up costing them the game was hitting Mahomes out of bounds for a 15-yard penalty with 8 seconds to go. I mean, I just don't have words. So yeah, tough way to lose. I look at it this way: there's going to be 31 teams that are losers this year. And the Bengals made an unbelievable run again, AFC Championship game on the road, and I mean, wow, what a great! I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, you have to be really happy with the effort, with the future. You've got Joe Burrow, you've got those guys. Now things are going to change when Burrow and Chase come off those rookie contracts, and all of a sudden the delta is probably about 50 or 60 million additional in cap space that's eaten up by the same players. So that's going to be challenging. But no, I mean, look, the Bengals were the dregs of the NFL just a few years ago, and now they're one of the best franchises, not one of the best franchises in the league. So my hat's off to them. Tough way to lose. Yeah, like I said, I'm not even a fan, and I felt bad for him tonight. So that was harsh.
No, it was brutal. Final question, NFL wise, if you're the Bengals, do you try to extend Joe Burrow this offseason?
Yeah, I think. I mean, yeah. I mean, clearly he's the heart and soul of that team, and you got to do that. And I mean, he's going to get the bag. I mean, what does he get? 45 million a year, 50 million a year? I mean, I don't even know what the number is for him right now, and it's going to be big. It's going to be substantial. It's going to cut off some of their flexibility that they have going forward. But when you have a guy like that, it's hard to believe that he's still only in his third year in the NFL. But third year and almost back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. So yeah, really, future's really, really bright. And think about it, as a Cleveland fan, the Cleveland Browns drafted the first pick of the draft. They drafted Baker Mayfield.
Oof.
And that's who they got. And the Bengals got Joe Burrow. So I think the Bengals did better than the Browns.
Oh my God, and Josh Allen sitting there. Yeah, well, we're gonna move on to a topic, little different speed. Davison, Igbino or whatever Igbinosun or whatever his name is. He just took off. He's at Michigan now. He's a kid that if we got him, which at this point I'm not sure how you feel. He's a kid that is in a huge position of need. He was a freshman All-American. So Davison Igbinosun is a guy that they gave the royal treatment to. We have some pretty funny videos of the royal treatment going down in Columbus, what it looks like. Nevada, how are you feeling about this at this point Sunday night? He's in Ann Arbor right now. He's getting wined and dined up there. It's obviously been revealed that he is in Tennessee student directory, so he's already enrolled at Tennessee, so that seems pretty obvious that there's a good shot he's going to end up there. But what are your thoughts on it right now? Can we swing it back this way?
I mean, look, can we? Yeah, anything's possible. Will we? I'd probably say no. I think our chances are extremely remote, especially with him being enrolled there at Tennessee. Now, again, I don't know on those directories if anybody could just go in there and put a name and put a thing. I'm not really sure how that works, but look, this young man is clearly looking for the best deal, and I'm not sure if Ohio State is going to offer him the best deal. And Tennessee's definitely throwing the bag at him. So if I had to bet, I say he's going to Tennessee, and I think that's pretty much a done deal. But hey, you never say never. I would never guess that a Cincinnati Bengal guy could hit the Mahomes 15 yards out of bounds on the last play of the game to set up a game-winning field goal. So anything is possible.
And grab his knee after he hit him for sympathy.
Because he was hurt. He was going for the. I hurt my knee. I hurt my knee.
The official did not care. So those of you guys that are watching this live on YouTube, this will also be on Apple and Spotify. This is inside the entryway to the WAC. They put up the first round draft pick jerseys. this is from the visit. He has a little buddy walking around with the camera. They posted this, so we're using it. This is it's just kind of a behind the scenes of what goes on in an official visit at Ohio State. When you see, like, here's the ring case. You know, they show all the different rings. Here's the equipment room. So a lot of you guys see the photo shoots that go on where these kids wear these like crazy outfits. They wear like the blacked out visors on the helmets, which are completely illegal and you'll never be allowed to wear in a college football game. But they do it for the photo shoots because they look cool, like it's the program in 1991 or whatever. And like there's the little helmet. Like here, you know, the kids, they always want this like this black visor on the helmet, and you can't wear it, but it looks cool. So the kids, they all want to do photo shoots with the black visor helmet on. So they kind of pick out their gear at the equipment room. You know, they pick out the jersey number they want to do it in. So it's oh yeah, Colorado, Missouri. I apologize. Good catch there, Imhotep. That's a great builder in Civilization, by the way. On the 5th down, yeah, it was Colorado, Missouri, not Michigan. Michigan, that was the Cordell Stewart Hail Mary play. So I apologize for that. Great catch. But yeah, you know, here's the wall of cleats, you know, so I don't know, like, if the wall of cleats does anything to sway a recruit, but they show, like, there's the LeBrons that we wore, the blacks with the red stripe. Nevada, does any of this, if you were a young, more athletic person and could play corner, would any of this sway you? This is funny because they show Tim Walton shooting. I apologize, it gets a little grainy here for a second. It's a little stretch out. Here's Tim Walton shooting. And again, this is kind of like this kind of sums up our corner play at the end. They show him bricking a free throw, so it kind of is like the perfect Tim Walton video right there. They show like the little arcade and the golf simulator, and but does any of this move the needle for you if this was your kid or if you were actually being recruited?
Yeah, actually, I think it's pretty cool. And again, I've had kids kind of go through the process, not at this level, but
Yeah,
I think that stuff's really cool. I think it's all really cool, and I think it's fun. And look, there's a reason why Oregon gets so many recruits, and it's not because living in Oregon is so nice, and because kids dream of being Ducks. It's because the gear's cool, and because the access to Nike is cool, and those types of relationships really can move the dial. So no, I think this stuff. Look, Ohio State's got this down to a science. They know what they're doing. They've obviously been able to do this at the highest level while still not throwing the bag at kids. So
yeah.
yeah, I'd say yeah, all this stuff matters, and I love seeing it.
My biggest question is, if you did one of these shots, would you go ski mask or no ski mask? That's my biggest question.
I don't think I'd go ski mask, but I would definitely go black visor. I definitely would go. I'd go
Black.
all black visor in terms of doing it. I do gloves. I do the whole 9 yards like that. But I'm not going to do the ski mask. I don't think, because I think it would hurt my ears and my head or something like that.
Yeah, I don't like it. It makes my head. So this is the highlight. I love they show so you know these guys, they go to Hyde Park down on the Cap for you guys in Columbus, the one downtown, and look at all that butter. I mean, God, he looks.
Oh man.
I mean that's a lot of butter, man. And that butter is not cheap. That is like compound butter with truffles. That's probably like $10 worth of butter on top of probably a $90 steak, I'd say, because that's not unless that's the bone-in. I looked up the bone-in is up to $1.35 now. So with inflation and with just the overall stupidity of going to like a Hyde Park or a high-end steakhouse, man, it is not cheap. Salad, no one's gonna eat that, of course. Lobster, no one's gonna eat that. The one interesting thing is when these kids are older, is they could technically drink on these. This kid isn't old enough because he's only 19. Here's like the flaming. I call this it's like the flaming Mo from The Simpsons, but it's like a flaming Bananas Foster's thing, and these guys were wowed by the flame, like the fire. They light it on fire. Nevada, would you want your dessert to be lit on fire, or would you just want to enjoy it like a regular
No, but
human?
that steak looks really, really good. I mean, that steak looks really good. I don't care what it's like. 7:35 out here. It's about 10:35 your time. I mean, I could go for a big steak like that right now, no doubt about it.
If you had a steak like that and it was in your living room, would you hit it out of bounds or no?
I would not hit it out of bounds, and I would not but I would grab my knee after I ate the thing because I'd probably pull a groin muscle while eating that giant steak.
Your ACL just tear as you stood up after eating a 3 pound steak. I love it.
Exactly.
So this is interesting. Here I'm on my Jeff Okuda, and since this is a kid show, we're not going to write the S word. I scratched that off. But you know, he at least knows who Jeff Okuda is, which is great. I mean, he's from Jersey and Okuda is from Texas. So, you know, I mean, at least he knows somebody that plays for Ohio State. But would you go red pants, Nevada, or would you go silver pants if you're doing your photo shoot?
Do they have like black? They don't have like the all black type
I
outfit or
think they
something
do
like that?
have the black. I think the black's the greatest uniform combination of all time. That's the one I'd want. I'd want black top, black bottoms. In the comments, in the chat right now, what is your favorite Ohio State uniform? Type it in the chat. And do we need to go back to the silver sleeves, which everybody thinks? Yeah, I don't like the red. The red looks like Clifford the Big Red Dog, I think. So I'm not a big fan of it. But would you go red pants or would you go silver pants? Or would you go black pants?
Well, the whole thing you know what the whole thing reminds me of? It reminds me of a big steak. I'm still thinking, am I fixated on that steak right now? Is that, yeah, go back to the steak. Oh
You want
man,
me to go steak? You want me to go back to steak?
go back to the steak. I want
This
to.
reminds.
Do they have the sides? Do they have like a baked potato or anything like that? They show the sides, or just the
I
lobster
think they
tail
just
and
show
stuff
the
like.
lobster tail. The steak's too low rent, or I mean, I mean, nobody eats a potato. I mean, it's like
Do you think?
people in,
Do you think it was?
people in California
that
don't eat potatoes.
was that a community steak? Like they cut it and they give pieces, or was that like
No,
just his steak?
no. This is a singular steak for one person.
Oh
So
man.
I've gone out to eat with a guy like this. So he gets, you know, the Wagyu tomahawk, which is like, you know, it's almost like obnoxious because like you don't really need this big stupid bone here. They could really saw that off and make it a lot more manageable. But you know, he gets the steaks like $135. It's the size of like a plate, and then you got this bone hanging off. This bone reminds me a lot of what Patrick Mahomes like flopping here over here on the bench. If this is the bench
No, but
over here,
it's like the Flintstones or something like that. You eat that like
yeah,
something on the Flintstones, you know. But that like a brontosaurus steak or something. But that
yeah.
man, that looks delicious.
So I need you to rate these sides. So I think we've got truffled. That looks like mac and cheese. No, that's not mac and cheese. That's potatoes. This is
Ooh.
potatoes. I think this is mac and cheese with no lobster in it. Here's a lobster. Someone's in that saucy sauce. They're in the that looks like a soda, like a probably like a I imagine a vodka soda because these coaches are probably trying to stay skinny after eating all this food.
No, but
You
he'd hit that Caesar salad pretty good. He had hit that Caesar salad pretty good, and that the Caesar salad that's a nice way to start off a meal like that.
do you think that you do that? Do you eat some of the salad in front of the coaches to show your dedication levels? Is that why you eat some of the salad? If you've got Ryan Day sitting there and Tim Walton and Jim Knowles and they're trying to get to know you, like, do you just eat a little bit of the salad just to show that, hey, I have eaten a vegetable. I'm not just going to eat the ice cream pudding and the steak with extra truffle butter on it. Do you think that's like
No,
that's part of the schematics or no?
I'm ordering like Parker House rolls and like a shrimp cocktail,
Ooh.
and I'm ordering like all the stuff, and I'm just like loading up on the apps before we kind of go into the big. I'm
Oh,
eating it all just to show them that I've got a big appetite, and then I go heavy on the dessert, and maybe even like an after dinner, like maybe a Bailey's on the rocks or something like that.
would you want to ladle the fire onto the food yourself, or would you want them a professional to do, or would you just want
No,
to
I
say,
want
"Hey, I'm a
no, I want a
leader.
professional.
Oh, you wouldn't do it? I'd do it."
No, no way, man. I'm not. I don't want anything flaming. I don't want to be dealing with the flaming moe when nothing's going to stand between me and that dessert. I want somebody else to deal with the flyer.
I mean, I think that the flaming moe is a perfect concoction. So, you know, again, I want to go back. We're going to re-examine the initial part of the meal, to make sure we didn't miss anything because I do not believe that we saw a baked potato. I'm just saying.
Uh,
We got the compound butter here, big
yeah,
time. You
yeah.
know, and then you go over here.
Look at that. That Caesar salad. He was eating that Caesar salad.
Yeah, but I think just kind of moved it around, shuffled. It looks a little
No,
heavier over
no,
here.
no, no.
I I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, I just yeah, I don't see your baked potato. Your baked potato vanished. So, you know, there's no baked potato. Guys, if you guys are into steaks, you know, you guys got to dinner. What sides do you have to get? Put that in the comments. Again, this is just kind of a silly episode because I saw this and I was like, you know what? I bet most people haven't like
What
seen
is
it.
that right there? What is that right there? Stop.
Where
Stop to the left.
left?
Stop.
Where right
There.
here?
Stop. Right there. Yeah,
Hang
right
on,
there. Circle that thing.
I gotta get
Is,
this
is,
right here.
is it? Yeah. What is that?
That I think that's potatoes,
Is that
or it might be
potatoes?
cauliflower. Like one of these
Uh,
is potatoes and one of these is cauliflower. I don't know which is
oh,
which.
yeah, I don't want any
So
of that stuff. I want potatoes. I want corn, I want lobster tail, and I want steak. That's all that's all that I want. I don't want anything else. I don't want I don't want green beans. I don't want anything else. I just want corn, and I want chopped corn. I don't want that cream corn. I want like chop house corn, crunchy.
You're the you're the Joseph Osai of steakhouse eaters.
Yeah, Joseph
You're
Hosai will live. He will live in infamy.
all right.
Number
So this is
58 should be retired. Okay, let's see some video.
these are his highlights. So we're gonna watch these. He's going both ways, obviously. Again, we're being a little funny tonight because it is Sunday night, and we did just watch one of the funniest. It was a weird NFL game. I mean, this was like of all the championship Sundays, Nevada, like just rank the quality of the games. Like I thought, obviously the Chiefs Bengals game was great when it came down to the last second field goal, but like early on when Brock Purdy gets hurt, and then they got to put in like Josh Johnson was in my draft class. I'm 38, so he was drafted when he was 38, or he's 38 now. He's played on like 30 teams across like 5 different leagues, and he was the backup quarterback for the 49ers. So I mean, I feel bad for some of these guys, like for the 49ers, when all of a sudden they're in the NFC title game and they don't have a quarterback. It kind of changes the calculus a little bit. But what what did you think of the games today?
Well, no. First of all, am I right? That was his first NFL snaps that he'd ever taken. Was today?
No, I don't think so. Was it?
I mean, that's what I heard. Now maybe I could have dreamed that,
Well,
but I mean, I've never even heard of him. I've never even heard, and I follow football for a living, and I do fantasy, and I'd never even heard of him. So like it's possible that he's never played before.
Well, no, he has played. All right, Paul. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna put Paul on here because Paul's the voice of reason. Paul, we're gonna grade this meal real quick. All right, Nevada. Paul, who watches all of our stuff and is one of our best people, 10-ounce filet mignon, parm crust topping, mushrooms, Caesar salad, cream spinach with Parmesan crust topping, and chocolate cake with chocolate icing. I do not see a potato in there. Nevada, your thoughts on the missing potato?
No potato, no corn, and so I think that meal has been disqualified from consideration, even though the rest of it was a strong thing. If you're going to get chocolate, if you go chocolate cake to a chocolate icing, that's a lot of chocolate. That's like kind of one note right there. It's kind of chocolate and chocolate. You need something to crunch that up. Maybe some sort of a nut topping or some sort of whipped cream or something like that.
Well, I give it an A plus. I'm tired of this craziness. I think it's fantastic. I love the extra Parmesan on top of cream spinach. Great job, Paul. Oh, you're talking about Nevada. But no, I love this. This is a wild one. But no, this kid, I think he's got a shot. But I mean, realistically, in Nevada, like, what are the odds that this kid actually comes to Ohio State after he's in Tennessee?
I mean, again, all I can base upon is how excited Ohio State is about it, and like they want the kid, but this kid is. It's not about. He knows he's going to play. He knows he believes he's going to be developed. He believes he's going to find his way to the league. He is about what is the best deal for him in the here and now. And that's generally not a good sign for Ohio State. Generally, Ohio State doesn't win those battles. So I would say that we're a serious dark horse in this race.
I think it's going to be interesting. But again, do you have any pause when a kid goes to a place like Ole Miss, who notoriously has paid kids for the last 100 years to go there, and then all of a sudden he goes there for a year? You imagine that he got some sort of NIL deal to go to Ole Miss. Then he hits the portal and he's searching for a new NIL deal. Do you think that there's a chance that he actually got another NIL? He's like going year over year to search for new NIL deals?
Well, I think he said that. I think he's looking, and he's not looking to take a pay cut. So he's looking for you to kind of match what he got at Ole Miss. And as you said, Ole Miss was cheating before NIL and giving kids the bag. So with NIL, it's kind of the wild, wild west. So, when you see a kid like that, you got to, tread very, very carefully. But, he's such a talent at such a position of need. If it was any other position on the field, I'd say you don't even return this kid's call. But I mean, it's at such a position of need. And, having a kid like this, it's kind of like the Elias Ricks things that we followed for years and
Oof.
years. Because look, we needed elite cornerbacks, and he's an elite cornerback. So this guy falls in the same category, but don't think we're getting him. But who knows? Hope springs eternal. Maybe tomorrow he'll change his mind and put on the Jeff Okudah jersey and become a Buckeye.
With the position of corner, again, this is something I think we talk about every single day. It's the two spots everyone's worried about is O-line and DB. Nevada, which one are you more worried about at this point as we head into winter conditioning and mat drills?
Yeah, well, it's definitely corner. I mean, like I said, we're so thin. I mean, we got to find a second. I'm not even sure we have a third. So, like, we've got a serious issue at cornerback right now. That some question marks that need to be answered. So, look, that's going to be my focus. It's almost going to be my two focuses through the spring are going to be the quarterback derby, because I think that's going to be just fun to watch, and I think the best man's going to win, and whoever it is, it's going to do great. But the cornerback position, we need some guys to step up, and it's time for Jordan Hancock to be a 5-star and be that lockdown guy. And we need some help, and we definitely need some help, and we need it quick.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that corner, and it's a position that I'm sure they're going to farm even after spring ball, because it's a position where it's really unique in that you don't really need to know a whole lot to play corner. Like, you don't need to know the scheme that well. I mean, it's pretty simple. You're kind of out on an island, or you're dropping to a coverage zone. So it's not the toughest thing in the world to come in and play corner with missing spring ball and limited access to your coaches. It's not like playing offensive line or quarterback or receiver. It's probably the easiest position to play on the entire team, just because if you've got the requisite skills and ability, like, you're basically just covering a guy man on, and that's something that the way Jim Knowles likes to run cover 1 and cover 0, it's a lot of man on man coverage, man. And it's like, if you can run with the guy and shut him down, you're in need. And this is a kid that, he's got that ability. He's long, he's lanky. I think that he's, of all the guys that would be a big shot in the arm to Ohio State in the portal, this guy would probably be at the top, even more so than any of the offensive tackles that came in and visited or that we offered. I know everybody, they wanted a tackle from Washington State and they wanted a backup from Georgia, but this is a kid that literally was a freshman All-American last year. Like, there weren't, to my knowledge, there weren't any tackles that were freshman All-Americans that you get from multiple years like this kid was. Because that's the other intriguing thing about this kid is he's not a kid who's a sophomore or junior who's going to be here for a year, for a senior year. This is a kid that literally is going to be somewhere for 2 years at least, and he's likely a 3-and-out kind of guy just because he's a freshman All-American corner, and those guys usually don't see year 4. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. Again, him being in the Tennessee directory, I think that's a pretty big tell as to where he's leaning, and I think he's probably just taking these out for like little field trips to take his crew out for some 5-star dinners for free and get wined and dined and whatever and do the photo shoots. But it was interesting. Tim Walton was the lead dog on that. There's been a lot of speculation around his status. So him being the point guy for this, I think for him is good. I mean, I root for guys that are former Ohio State players. I mean, Tim Walton obviously was an alumni guy that played at Ohio State. So, I think it's better to have some of those guys in the building that kind of get what Ohio State is, because there's, they're kind of dwindling. They got James Laurinaitis in, which was huge. Nevada, your thoughts on James and the impact he could have coming back into the fold? It's always hilarious to me because a year ago, I was kind of screaming at the top of my lungs that we need to hire James Laurinaitis, and then we don't return his calls. He wanted to get into coaching, couldn't get a hold of anybody at Woody Hayes, and now he's back, and you had to go to Notre Dame for a year, sell his dream house, which is kind of unfortunate, but whatever. He can go buy it again. He's got plenty of money. But your thoughts on James joining the fold and potentially injecting some new life into the defensive room from a recruiting perspective?
Well, I think again, having a young guy like that is just huge. And as you're aware, he can't go on visits to go to recruits, but when they're on campus, he can certainly visit with them. And let's face it, Jim Knowles' strength, he wasn't brought on because he was a dynamic recruiter. It was kind of like a Kevin Wilson type who wasn't a particularly strong recruiter, but was great in the game planning, great in the coordination, and that's kind of what you're getting with Knowles. So having a guy like Laurinaitis who can help with the recruiting when the kids are on campus, help with maintaining that contact. I just think it's I thought it was a home run hire a year ago, and now I even feel more strongly that it's a grand slam home run for Ohio State, and couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah, and from a personal standpoint, I was like, obviously my career wasn't James Laurinaitis's at any level, but I was first team All American captain, just like James was. And to be able to sell that at your home school, I think is huge because, I was a coach, grad assistant for 3 years, got my MBA done. But when I was in recruiting, and I was a very active recruiter because that was something that I could do to add value, and show Urban Meyer, hey, I'm really good at this. And I think kids kind of gravitate to guys that have done what they want to do. These guys all want to come to Ohio State. They all want to be All Americans. They all want to win the butt kiss and the Lombardi and all the huge awards that James won. They want to play in big games. They want to beat Michigan. They want to be drafted high. James is a guy that should have been a first round pick. He went right at the beginning of round 2. And now it's a lot more fun when you're James and you get to sell it through testimony instead of theory. And what I mean by that is, testimony is if you've actually done it at that place, and theory is like if you're trying to sell something that isn't really authentic. And that's what most coaches have to do. Most coaches aren't coaching at their alma mater. So, Ryan Day, and again, he does really well in recruiting, but he didn't go to Ohio State, and he can't say, this is what it's done for me. James and Brian Hartline could say, this is what place has done for me. I've had a great life, great career, met my wife at, Brian and James both met their wives at Ohio State. It's kind of given them everything. And now he gets to sell that instead of trying to kind of reverse engineer and learn Notre Dame, that's hard. Because, when coaches first get on the staff, like in 2012, when Tom Herman came from Iowa State and, Zach came from Florida and, Ed Warner came from Notre Dame, none of those guys really knew Ohio State because they didn't go there. They've driven past it. They probably got onto a game. They might have played there before as a visiting team, but you just don't have like the thorough knowledge that you do if it's your alma mater, which again, that's a benefit to James and Brian. So I think that's something that it's going to be exciting to see how much James can add from a perspective and kids, all these kids, their number one goal when they go on recruiting visits is they want to go to the NFL. That's number one. And it's probably, if there's 100 choices, it's probably 1 through 99. And then the last one is whatever, the color of the uniforms or close to home, whatever. But if, these kids want to go to the league. And the thing I think Brian Hartline's really good about is that, he played in the league and he had a nice career in the league, made a lot of money in the league, big second contract in the league. And he can tell that to these kids when he goes down to Florida and say, hey, I'm going to make you into a much better version of me. You're going to be a lot richer than me. And he's done that with Garrett and with Chris Olave and, the years that he had JMO, and he's doing it with Marvin and Emeka, and you got all these guys, Jackson Smith and Jigba. These guys are all like better versions of Heartland. They all get drafted much higher than Brian. They're going to get bigger second contracts than Brian. And I think James is kind of going to be the defensive version of that, especially for back seven guys, because I think James can relate to the secondary guys, safeties, linebackers, and I think that's what's exciting for me because we're getting long in the tooth, especially in the front seven with Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson as our lead recruiters up there. And I think you got to inject some youth into that side of the ball. Nevada, anything that I said that you agree with, disagree with, have a counterpoint to? Love your thought on my little diatribe there.
Yeah, no, I think it's the point about being long in the tooth on the defensive sides. That's just the way it is. And I felt like we needed to get younger on that side of the ball. The way we've kind of got the staff set up right now, we're kind of short-staffed on that side of the ball, in my opinion, anyway. So, when you've got a couple of guys that are, older guys have kind of seen kind of the twilight of their career from a recruiting standpoint, I think having a guy like Laurinaitis is just, like I said, it doesn't get much bigger than that. And, I felt this way about Hartline when he was hired. Said it then. I'll say the same thing about Laurinaitis. I'll go all in on that. He's going to make a big impact here at Ohio State and going to be a very, very productive coach.
CJ, I will download that film tonight. Peyton Pierce will have that ready to go for tomorrow. Again, if there's any prospects that Ohio State is in on, is recently offered, I'm getting a ton of those. But if there are any guys that you'd love to see, put that in the comments. Appreciate you guys as always. Any questions you guys have? We're getting into kind of the third week of conditioning, excuse me. And, now these guys are starting to assimilate together with the freshmen. The freshmen initially for the first couple weeks are separated from the big guys. Excuse me, so they can get some benchmarking stuff done. A lot of these freshmen have never really worked out before, or they haven't worked out at the level that Mickey Marotti pushes guys to work out. So they like to keep the freshmen separate initially. A lot of times they'll be working out at 6 a.m. Just all freshmen. Teach them how to do the warm up. Teach them how to lift properly. Kind of get a baseline on their flexibility and their strength levels. And after a couple weeks, then they get mixed into the group with the big dogs. So then all of a sudden it's like that's when your eyes get a little wide because you're looking at guys that are benching, extreme amounts of weight and squatting extreme amount of weight, and they're just bigger, faster, stronger than anything you've ever seen in your life. When you're a 18-year-old coming in from high school, and you should still be in high school. So that's always exciting. And then these guys start mat drills, which really suck. A lot of just conditioning, or they just try to mentally break you. It's kind of like it's not as extreme as like a Bud's Navy SEAL type thing, but it's like one of those things where they just try to break you. It's like an hour of just conditioning and barrel rolls, monkey crawls, just stuff to see. What does it take to break you? So that's always a fun time of the year to see what guys kind of man up during that period, what guys kind of turn it down, and what guys have gotten themselves in better shape. Because there's some guys that don't take the off season as seriously. They don't get as much conditioning. And then when those things hit, man, it's like a sledgehammer hitting them right in the face.
So,
Nevada,
question for you. If we dropped you in a Buds class, like right now, like took you out of your basement, threw you in a Buds class there for day one, how long do you think you could survive? I'm talking about just how long could you make it at Buds without ringing the bell and tapping out?
Oh, 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. I mean, I'm a lot closer to going to Hyde Park and ordering a buttered steak than I'm going through Hell Week. So, I mean, I know my limits. Like I am well past my prime. I mean, even at my peak physical stuff, like what I was good at physically wasn't the stuff that would make it in Hell Week. Hell Week is like you got to be conditioned, you got to be lean, you got to be and obviously you got to be extremely mental tough. But I mean, those guys are machines, and I was always heavier, bigger, like raw strength, like that kind of thing. And that's not what you need to be great in Buds. It's not a bench press competition, it's not a squat competition. It's a endurance and no sleep. And yes, I would not last very long. I'm just telling you, I'm an honest guy. I'm 38 years old. I don't act like I could still play football. I don't miss playing football. So I'd probably last maybe 2 minutes, and then I'd be at the whatever. Where is that done? Is that done in San Diego? Is that where they do that? I'd be at the closest steakhouse in San Diego, getting an extra compound butter on my steak, truffle butter. So again, I don't act like I'm some big tough animal that could go conquer Bud's training, because those guys are monsters, and I just don't. I'm good. I had my moment in the sun of being big tough guy, and now I'm Mr. Podcast guy, so it's even more fun. But I'm excited. So this is a great question. You guys are bringing in some of these good questions now, like always. Nevada, this is a kind of a $1 billion question. Appreciate this, T. These young guys with Mayan and X coming back, the receiver running back room are super deep. Over under 2 guys. How many guys combined from the skill positions of tight end, receiver, and running back do you see taking off after spring football? Over under 2. We'll start there.
Well, it's over. It's going to be clearly over that. But I think you'll probably lose one running back. I mean, the thing about the running back room is the running back room's kind of heavy this year. But then, if you're a running back and you're looking anywhere past this year, the running back room's going to clean out. And we don't have any recruits that are even behind it. So anybody who's got a horizon that's more than 1 year will probably stick around. But I think from a tight end standpoint, you probably lose 1, and from a receiver standpoint, you probably lose 2. So I'd probably go over with that, and maybe 1 running back, so maybe 4. I'd probably say 4. But if it's 2 or 2.5, you're setting the line. I'm definitely betting over.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think that's just how college football is now, and I think guys they'll get through spring. They'll look at the depth chart. They'll say, "Man, I'm way down here. I'm gonna get 2 carries." Because at some positions we just don't rotate. Like a wide receiver last year, it was like a 4-man rotation for the whole season. It was Marvin, Emeka, Julian, and X. That was it. Like, I mean, we thought Jaden Ballard was getting. Jaden Ballard had more TikTok videos than he did snaps last year, I think. So, I mean, he was not on the field as much as I thought he'd be. Because again, a guy like that can stretch the field and run, you'd think that they'd sub out, one of our big dogs and let him, just stretch the field on a play and just throw him a rope and have him go see if he can go get it and add a different dimension to the offense. And even the fact that like Brian Hartline won't put him back on punt return or kick return was crazy to me. Like we had Emeka out there and I'm like, Emeka's playing like 75 snaps a game. He's played the whole game. He never comes off the field. And then he still has to go back and field a punt. We don't have any of the 20 wide receivers that are on the team that can field a punt or any of the corners or DBs that can field a punt. So that was confusing. But that short rotation, again, that's something that, you always have to monitor the rotation to see how much, a guy potentially could play and make an impact. Because if you're Evan Pryor, that was the guy that they were on red alert, 5-alarm fire that he was taken off after that awesome spring game he had. They were really worried about him transferring, and they got him to stay. Then he tore his ACL. And, if he balls out again in the spring and someone says, hey, you can come to our place and be our starting running back, then I don't know. Like, I think, if someone offers you to be the starter and be the guy, you have to at least consider it, because otherwise you're going to sit at Ohio State. You're going to watch 4 other guys play before you. If you've got Trey and Dallin and Mayan and you've got Chip, I don't know what they're going to do with Chip. Those guys all started and played. I mean, Chip started the Michigan game, for God's sakes. Dallin started the Maryland game. The game before that, Trey started games. Mayan started games. Like, I've never seen anything like that in the history of Ohio State football. And they all played well. It's not like they got out there and stunk. They all played really well. So, if you're the guy that was, inactive last year because you tore his knee in camp, like, where does that leave you when all those guys are back? So again, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. This is a great question. So Nevada, CJ, I appreciate this question. Is Brian Hartline going to go up to the box, or will he be down on the field with the receivers? And I know my answer, but it'd be interesting to see what you think, Nevada, unless you want me to go first.
I think my guess would be, and it's strictly a guess, it would be Brian in the box, Keenan Bailey doing the hands-on coaching on the sideline. That would be my guess.
I think you're exactly spot on. I think Brian needs to be upstairs. Again, I've literally sat next to Tom Herman when he was calling plays and Joe Bowlen when he called plays. So it was like, it's so much more easy controlled. They have their whole play sheet out in front of them. They've got little notes. The GA or whoever sits next to him can pass, hey, this is what we got. These are the coverage we got. These are the blitzes. I used to draw the blitzes up for Tom Herman so he could see what they were bringing. And then I'd usually get the coverage from someone. Someone behind me would always tell me what the coverage was, because I'd look at the front 7 and they'd look at the back 4. So it was we always had like really good chemistry. And I think that's important, because you have to give an accurate picture to the offensive coordinator, and he has to be sitting in the box for him to see that. So Keenan Bailey is the guy who's got a lot of utility. He's worked with Brian Hartline. He knows the receiver room. I mean, I think he's interned at every room. He's quarterbacks. It wouldn't surprise me if he was an O-line intern. Obviously, he's a tight ends coach now, but he can coach the receivers with equal proficiency as Brian. So I think that if Brian's trying to tell him something, Keenan will understand the language and be able to relate to the guys down there. And that's what's really important. I think it's just an absolute no-brainer if you're a play caller to be in the box, because it's so much more controlled and so much easier to do it from. But it'll be interesting.
True or false? I want you to either dispel this myth or this myth will continue on, even though I'm not sure if you know. Well, I'm sure you remember I know you remember the game, but I'm not sure if you know the circumstances. 2007 Illinois game, Mendenhall breaks off an early run and fumbles at the end of the run, and we don't challenge it or do anything. There's a rumor that the coach up at the box were eating nachos and missed the play. True or false?
That would have to be false, because we don't have nachos up there. They have City Barbecue, hot dogs, and usually McFlurries or McCafes from McDonald's. So, because I literally used to go up there and I would eat before the games, because during our pregame meal under Tressel, we didn't have like a lunch buffet. We would literally get like a plated meal, and you'd get like a little slab of lasagna, a little tiny filet mignon, a little piece of chicken. And I used to give my meal out to Reed Fragel or Muhort or one of the guys that was playing in the game that would be hungry, because it's not a lot of food. And so some of those guys, like Jack, would want my steak, and somebody would want my lasagna. So I wouldn't eat the pregame meal so the other guys could get some food. And because I'd always go upstairs, because as soon as I get to the stadium, I'd get dressed, and that takes literally like 2 seconds to put on khakis and a polo shirt. And then I'd go up to the press box, because you've got like, an hour to kill before the guys even get on the field. So we get in there like 2 hours before the game.
Now wait a second. Are you up there with a bunch of fat guys up there in the press box, like fighting for the food at the time? Or are you there before them or something like that?
Oh no, they're all there. All the media guys are there. The scouts are there. They're all and they're just hoofing down. It's like funny. The guy gives you like a handful of the excuse me, the fudging beef on the little plate, and you put a little sauce on it. But I would just I would house a little bit of that, and then I'd be good to go for the game because again, I didn't need to eat like a big thing of lasagna and steak and chicken when those other guys wanted it. So I'd go in there. I'd get my little spot set up. I'd get my stuff taped to the window, like our little down and distance reminders and that kind of stuff. Our little charts that we'd had up for the game planning. I'd got to get we had like a little space. I'd get it all set up, get my pens out, my little notebook, so I'd be ready to go. And then after the guys did their individual warm-ups where they'd be out running around on the field, I would go down to the field and I would watch the other team warm up just to see if there's any injury stuff, if there are any guys that weren't dressed, kind of check to see who was in the starting lineup, for whoever we were playing. And I'd always kind of watch how they were moving, watch their pass rush moves when they did one-on-one pass rush. I had like a whole little thing. So when I would come into the locker room, I kind of give the guys a quick little report of what each guy did in the one-on-one pass rush period. And also, they always run base defense. You're not going to get anything on game day, but I just kind of give them little ditties that I could figure out and then just calm them down and say, hey, I'll see you guys at halftime. Then I always run up to the top where we'd be ready to go. But yeah, it is funny because they've got like this food set up for the media guys up there, and I would just eat like a little bit of it just because I didn't want to eat too much and be all bogged down. But it's part of the gig when you're a GA, man. You're trying to just do as much as you can and give the guys a little bit more food. Then Urban came in, it was like we had a buffet after that. So, but trust I was always paranoid about guys eating too much. Like you got some guys stop playing, eat 6 plates of food, at the pregame meal, and that's always a possibility with some of those guys. So I know you're dying to say something after that diatribe.
No, I'm not gonna say any word. Just I don't want to stand between you and your food at any point there, Mr. Barton. That's for sure.
Oh my God, it was something else. What other questions you got have? So it'll be interesting to see the quarterback rotation just because I think that how many snaps does Devin Brown really get with the ones? Is it a true 1-to-1 split? So I'm going to put Walter. You asked did Ryan Day rotate the quarterbacks. I assume you mean that in games. I doubt he would do that. I think that that's more something that they'll figure out in spring. I can't see them not having a quarterback ready to go by week 1. I just think that that's going to be obvious. Like obviously right now the heavy favorite is Kyle McCord. He started a game right at Ohio State. He's older. He's been in the offense, but the good thing is you've got a couple of guys that have been in the offense for a couple of years now. So, they know the scheme. They're not newbies. They're not transfer guys. So it shouldn't really be hard for them to just be able to go out and play the game. They're not guys that are going to be wondering what to do because they're going to know this stuff cold. They've been throwing with these receivers all winter if they're smart and just grinding. So, it'll be interesting to see how they rotate it. Nevada, for you, your first couple of days of spring practice, how would you rotate Kyle McCord and Devin Brown back and forth?
Well, I think you just got to keep it a live competition. So I'd be splitting it 50-50 going through. And I think the interesting thing is going to be you have to continue the competition into the fall because you just cannot risk naming a starter or having a starter be apparent in the spring and having one guy leave and then you're really down to a tough situation in the quarterback room. So I think the delicate dance is to get both guys ready, but it's really sensible that you split the reps as much as possible so you keep both guys on the roster until the fall because Ohio State cannot afford to lose either one of them.
Quick question, or this is a good one. Paramjot Sandhu, appreciate you, my man. You guys think Marvin will win the Heisman? Well, he didn't win the Blitnikoff, and I think we don't do a good enough job of promoting our guys for major awards. So I mean, he'd have to have at least 2,000 yards to get it. And, I don't know. I mean, I would throw it to him. I'd throw it to him, and I'd try to get him 10 catches a game over 12. So you get 120 catches, and then you're probably going to get 2,000 yards out of it. But what do you think, Nevada? Does Marvin Harrison win the Heisman Trophy?
I just think when you're not a quarterback or running back, you've got to do something else. Then you've got to return kicks, or you've got to play defense, or you've
No,
got to do something else.
no.
And I just think that Marvin, you know, I think it'd be tough. Is it impossible? No. I mean, he's got that kind of talent, and if he caught fire early and nobody else really emerged, could it happen? Absolutely. But man, it's such a quarterback stat driven award that I think it would be tough. But if anybody could do it, it'd be Marvin.
I agree, and I think that the biggest thing to be able to win the Heisman is you got to beat Michigan. I mean, Michigan in theory has cost C.J. Stroud the last 2 Heisman trophies. If he beats Michigan and plays like C.J. Stroud's supposed to, then we're probably celebrating. And again, it's a whole team game because obviously we gave a lot of points, a lot of rushing yards, whatever. But I think that those Michigan games really loomed large for CJ because CJ this year if he beats Michigan. I'm sure we get by, Purdue in the Big Ten championship and he wins the Heisman, but instead we don't, and it slips away, and that's just part of football. Like, I mean, Ohio State, it's kind of they're blessed that they're dominant in the Big Ten, but they're also cursed that they're dominant in the Big Ten because really the only game that people focus on is that Michigan game now. I mean, we beat Penn State, who turned out to be really good, won the Rose Bowl. Nobody really cared. And when that last game of the year is the rivalry game and that's the national TV top, number 2, number 3 in the country game, and we lose, like that leaves a real sour taste in the mouths of the voters. And a guy like Caleb Williams, who'd already lost a couple games on the year, gets to get a mulligan because he plays in LA and it's West Coast, so it's harder to for less people pay attention to it. Obviously, his stats were dazzling. I mean, he ran for a ton of yards, and that's a fantastic offense that he's in. And Lincoln Riley knows how to get quarterbacks the Heisman, but that being said, I don't think he pays quite the penance that CJ paid for losing to Michigan for his losses. I'd love your thought on that, Nevada.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question about it. You got to be, you can't, you're not going to win the Heisman. I don't think have we ever had a Heisman winner that lost to Michigan? I'd
No, of
probably
course,
say no.
of course
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. So I think that's just kind of a prerequisite. Got to beat them. And that's going to return. I mean, this is a little 2-game blip that kind of drove a lot of those weasels out of mothballs, and now they're back and jumping around, but they'll return to their place soon enough. Probably this
Exactly.
year. Let's go.
Let's go this year. I know, seriously. We got James back. He's never lost to Michigan, so he's putting that on the line, coaching. And we're on a 2-game skid, and we haven't beaten them in 4 years. Vince, this is a great question. I don't know if I really want to name a name. If we lose a running back to the portal because we have so many, who do you think would be the odd man out and leave? I don't know. I mean, obviously, you got to look at the guys that played the least last year, which would be Chip and Evan Pryor. I'm not comfortable saying either of those guys would leave just because it is what it is. But again, it's modern college football, man. It's tough. I mean, you got, we didn't even land a running back in recruiting this year. Part of it was obviously NIL, and then another part of it was, if I'm a running back and I'm a freshman phenom, and I say, well, you guys have 6 running backs that started and played the last 2 years, like that's not the most appetizing room to come into. Now, next year is a different story because, Trey's going to be gone, Mayan's going to be gone, Dallin will be back, and then who knows? But I don't know. Nevada, do you have any comment on if we do lose a guy, who it would be? I'd imagine you're going to keep that quiet, but do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, that's tough. I just don't think it's fair to the kid to speculate on that. But I mean, obviously, I think the names are kind of obvious who it could be. But it's all speculation at this point. So, we'll know more after spring ball for sure.
Yeah, and this is a great question. The thought that Chip would move to linebacker before leaving, I was surprised he didn't play more. I mean, we had reports from inside camp that he was rolling with the 2s and looking athletic, and then, like a lot of the rotations on defense that were kind of interesting and questionable, like he didn't really play at all, and they tried to make him a kick returner and tried to do stuff to appease him and keep him engaged. But I was surprised. I thought he filled in well at running back against Michigan. I mean, he didn't vomit all over the place for a guy that hadn't carried the ball at all. That was strange that Dallin didn't get that start and all of a sudden Chip did, but whatever. Do you think, Nevada, that Chip moves back to linebacker?
Well, I just think it depends on the overall health of the room, and is Evan Pryor back or not, and how's Trey coming off that plantar surgery, and how's my knee? I think it's all going to be health related from that standpoint. But the linebacker room is kind of interesting because it's really kind of come down to be Steele and Tommy, and I mean, one of the forgotten men in that room is a guy that I really thought was going to be the next great linebacker at Ohio State, and Cody Simon. And I like he's not playing at all, or I shouldn't say at all, but not much. And that's completely perplexing. So yeah, put that down on another one on a long list of rotations, along with Jack Sawyer and Michael Hall and Tyleik Williams and Josh Proctor, of stuff that are just complete head scratchers regarding the defensive rotation. So I'm a little hesitant to make any predictions regarding who's playing or who's not playing or whatever it is, because stuff is legit weird on that side of the ball, and it is what it is.
And again, it's not just us, because we have people that say, "Hey, this guy looks great in practice. This guy, whatever." Like, I had people tell me Cody Simon was going to be the guy, and then 2 years ago he ripped both the shoulders out. He had massive reconstructive surgery on both shoulders. So playing linebacker, that's pretty tough. Obviously, you're not going to be able to play linebacker at all. So kind of a lost year 2 years ago. And then this past year, Tommy played out of his mind, and Steele really played well, and and Jim Knowles just doesn't rotate. And again, I always go back to the Proctor thing, because that was one of the things that it just was kind of telltale as to how weird the defensive rotations are, when they literally say, Jim Knowles, who is the head coach of the defense and is making $2.2 million a year, says Josh Proctor could be the best safety in America. And he said that on August 12th. I'll never forget that. And then 3 weeks later, he misses a tackle against Notre Dame, and he never plays again. So again, that was beyond weird, and he's back for year 6. I hope he dominates. I hope he is what Jim Knowles believes he is. I hope that they figure that out, whatever mental malfunction was going on, and he gets to have the kind of year that he wants to have, so that he can get drafted and continue playing football for a living. Nevada, your thoughts on Trey Henderson winning the Heisman? I love that one, Paul.
Well, look, I think he's got that kind of ability, and I think if he was any place other than Ohio State, I'd say he'd probably be one of the favorites. But look, he could bust off a 78-yard run and then not get another carry for the half. I mean, it's just the way that it goes there. So the way that they rotate the running backs, the way that they have got to feed the wide receivers, I just don't know if he's going to get enough touches to put up those Heisman type of numbers. And I don't think Ohio, to get that as a running back, you really need to be the bell cow and that guy that gets at 30, 32, 35 carries a game. And I just don't see Trey, any running back at Ohio State, being that way, because that's just not how Ryan Day rolls.
This is another great question. In Nevada, what should we expect in year 2 of the Knowles defense?
I think it's going to be great. I think I think our expectations should be top 10 and in all the meaningful categories. And I think anything short of that would be a disappointment. And I think that's, and the meaningful categories to me are, points per game, yards per game, points per possession, yards per play, third down efficiency, those types of things, like the meaningful stats, not these obscure stats where people are like, oh, we gave up big plays in the second half of the game against Michigan on third down. I'm talking about meaningful season-long, large sample size stats. We should be top 10 in the country, and if we're not, or right there on the border, I think it's a disappointment. But I think we will be, and I think we'll be top 5 in a lot of them as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that the one thing that I'm really interested in is seeing, do we get the sack totals raised up with JT being in year 3 and itching to go to the draft? Jack Sawyer, Mike Hall, Tyleik, if those guys are now your starters, then how much does that raise the game in terms of our pressure game? Do some of these young guys step up and pressure the quarterback? Because that's the thing that the most disappointing thing to me is that we just didn't get after the quarterback to the degree that I anticipated. Now, teams get rid of the ball really quick against us. There's analytics that say that they get rid of the ball really fast, a lot faster than they do at Oklahoma State, because they're worried about JT and they're worried about Zach Harrison, guys that were actually pretty proficient. I think Zach's a fringe first-round pick in the NFL draft, which is insane to people because he was a whipping boy because he was never Chase Young or Nick or Joey Bosa, but he was a productive guy. He's a young guy for a 4th-year senior. So I mean, he's a young fourth year guy. He's just turned 22. So he's got a lot of upside, and he's going to test and jump out of the gym at the combine. So I think he's got a nice NFL career. I do. I don't think he's going to ever be, Nick or Joey. But again, those are the two best ends in school history. So it's hard to, when you're dealing with the greatest of all time, like, you could be good at business, but just because you're not Jeff Bezos doesn't mean that you're a failure. Nevada, how much improvement do you think we'll see on defense with James Laurinaitis? And I think this will be, just because he's a GA and I've been a GA, I think it'll be somewhat minimal. And I think our linebackers were really good last year. I mean, I think Tommy could have been an All-American easily last year. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, I mean, look, the linebacker room, I've said this many times. I think the linebacker position group made the single biggest improvement that I've ever seen in a position group in 1 year ever at Ohio State. And I'm talking about with the same players, because basically you return the same guys, and Tommy Eichenberg went from tough Borland to being AJ Hawk in 1 year. And that's just incredible. In the space of 5 months, he just completely transformed and really really turned it around. So from that standpoint, I think Laurinaitis is going to pay dividends down the road. I think he's going to help in recruiting, and I think eventually once he becomes one of the permanent 10, obviously that's going to be he'll have a bigger impact. But it's going to be hard to improve in that linebacker room, because that linebacker room, I mean, with Steele and Tommy, I mean, I think it's the best pair of linebackers in the country. I mean, I don't know, haven't seen all the teams in the country, but it's hard for me to believe that anybody would have a better pair of linebackers than Tommy Eichenberg and Steele Chambers.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that the guys that could really be helped out by James Laurinaitis this time of year and in spring are those young guys. CJ Hicks should be his best friend. Even Sonny Styles should be his best friend. Like, some of these guys that are young that haven't played, Gabe Powers I would follow James around like a little kid, just because James is who you want to turn into. Be around him, ask him questions, watch film with him, ask him about how he worked out. What did you do in the off season? What did you do in season? What did you do to take care of your body? What's your diet? I'd ask him every question known to man to try to get as close to James Laurinaitis as I could in terms of his production, his proficiency, how he's a leader, just everything. Like, James is, of all the guys I played with in my life, during my time at Ohio State, him and AJ Hawk are just a different level of compared to anybody I played with. And those guys, they did, and Nick Mangold is right next to him. Like, they did everything the way you want to do it. They're just incredibly smart, incredibly tough, fantastic players, and guys that you'd want to study constantly just to see kind of everything that they do, everything they see, how they watch film. Like, if I'm those young guys, I am literally attached at the hip to James Laurinaitis. I'm going to take a couple more questions, and we're going to head off to bed for you guys. I appreciate you guys. T, another great question. Marvin plays well this well. Does he win the Biletnikoff? Does the team take him top 5? I will say yes and yes. Nevada, your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely yes on winning the Biletnikoff and top 5. I just think about the wide receivers that go at the top of the draft, and you look at the recent Ohio State wide receivers at 8, 9, 10 with Wilson, Olave, and Williams, and teams have to be happy with those picks. And then you've got a guy like Marvin who's a bigger version of those guys. And oh, by the way, just has a dad who's got an NFL pedigree of NFL Hall of Fame. Like, it's just a no-brainer. Like, whoever gets him is going to be very lucky. And I think top 5 is definitely almost a sure thing.
All right, T, you're going to be our second to last question. Should we expect a Bosa Young type leap from JT and Jack this year? I will say no, and it's not because I'm down on those guys, but those are top 2, top 3. I mean, Nick and Chase went top 2. Joey, I believe, went 3rd. So I can't see those guys going that high. I just don't think that they've got that type of inertia. Now, Chase Young in 18 was not nearly what he was in 19. So could it happen? I'd love it to happen. It'd be absolutely amazing. But, I kind of shy away from comparing these guys to who I believe are the 2 best ends to ever play there in Nick and Joey Bosa. 2 guys that are $150 million contracts, likely defensive player of the year in the NFL for Nick this year. I would love that. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, no, Chase was 19.5 sacks or whatever it was that one magical year. And I think that's kind of a worthy goal for the combination of the two. I think they'll both be double-digit sack guys, like 10 apiece. And I think, you get 20 sacks, that's Chase Young, but it won't be individually. But I think as a couple entry, I'd put them right there, 20 sacks between the two of them, and probably bet the over.
I like that. So, Tim Campbell, who will be the starting quarterback? Nevada, as of today, I'm going to go Kyle McCord. He's the chalk. I love Devin Brown. If I was the guy that was the head coach, I would go with Devin Brown, but I think the starting quarterback will be Kyle McCord. Again, I love Devin's mobility. I mean, again, you watch these games and you see, even when guys can't throw it at all, like Jalen Hurts is only going to the Super Bowl because he can run the ball, because he ran for a zillion yards this year. It's not because he can throw. Then you see Mahomes basically wins the game on a scramble. Joe Burrow had a huge scramble. So these guys that are mobile and can, when everything's covered and there's nothing going, the QB run is just OP. And I think that's part of the reason why Gene Smith and Ryan Day and these guys, they want to play these, they want to play games at neutral sites, or, if Ohio State, if the Horseshoe could host a home playoff game, they'd rather play it in the RC, or not the RCO Dome, the Lucas Oil Dome, because again, when you don't run as a quarterback, then it hinders you when you play in terrible weather, rain, snow, sleet, whatever. But if your quarterback can run, it's a huge advantage in those kind of conditions. But your thoughts on who's going to be the starting quarterback, Nevada?
Yeah, no, I think McCord's got to be the favorite, but yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to. I hope Kyle can move it. I know that Ryan just isn't crazy about that for whatever reason, but I'm hoping he's kind of changed his viewpoint, with what he saw what CJ Stroud could do against Georgia, because frankly, I thought he played his best game by far against Georgia, and it wasn't coincidentally. It was also the game where he ran more aggressively than he ever had at any point in his career at Ohio State, and I wish he had done that from day one. But I guess he did do that day one. His first carry ever was like a 50-yard touchdown run, and then he never ran again. So, yeah, no, I think it's going to be McCord, but rooting for both of them.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it was something where he left a lot of meat on the bone throughout his career. Fantastic career throwing the ball, but he doesn't have any rings to show for it. Has no gold pants to show for it. And I think that he's gonna look back. Of course, that he did some things differently. That being said, this is the last question. Appreciate you, JT. All you guys that are on here. Great show. Again, great questions. Again, you guys. There's some days where you guys really carry the show. You guys really help us. So we appreciate you guys. Sunday night's late. You guys are, some of you guys are upset Bengals fans. We are perplexed NFL fans, Nevada and I. Final question. It was brought up on another podcast that Knowles stated gash plays are a part of his defensive scheme that can happen. Do you think he needs to fix that and tailor the scheme to our personnel on hand? I think that any defense can get gashed. I don't know if that was just some clinic talk where he said that, hey, we could get gashed if they do this. Because here's the thing about calling a defense or a defensive scheme. Every defense that you could possibly call has a weakness. It doesn't matter if you're on a 4-3, 3-4, a 5-2, a nickel, a dime, a penny, goal line, punt rush, whatever, field goal block, anything you could call in Madden, there's a weakness to it. I promise you. So are there weaknesses in Jim Knowles' defense? Maybe, I guess, but he basically just runs nickel defense. It's 4-2-5. Now he has fancy names for his nickel, and he's got an adjuster, and he's got a bandit. His bandit is his bench safety, who's kind of to the short side of the field. The adjuster is the free safety. It's life and ransom. And then he's got the nickel, who's the nickel, which is the same nickel that we've always had. The only difference is he likes to play a safety like Tanner McAllister there instead of a corner, which, again, a little bit bigger body, a little bit more tackling. But, that can rear its ugly head when you run against a team like Michigan, and you got to have a guy like Lathan or Tanner, like Lathan in the box versus Michigan when they did their wing tight formation killed us because Lathan couldn't get the guy down, and we had Tommy walked out over the tight box. I'm gonna diagram that for you guys because it sounds like hieroglyphics when I try to describe that, but you got to keep Tommy in the box for those, and have Lathan be the point guy versus that formation. I'll draw it up for you guys. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, look, first of all, we say this all the time on our podcast. Our job here in the podcast is to make you guys smarter fans and dispel some of these lazy narratives and some of these stupid things that get said out there by people that just get repeated over and over again. There's nothing crazy about the Knowles defense. It's a 4-2-5. It's commonly referred to as the nickel defense. That's what it's referred to. So when people talk about this defense like it's some crazy, wild riverboat gambler scheme that's kind of going on, it's just not true. I think that when people say that, when we gave up long plays for touchdowns, it's because guys were in positions to make plays and didn't execute their jobs, and that's what happens. And when you do that, typically on a defense, if a couple of guys if one guy makes a mistake, it can generally be a first down or a big play. If two guys make a mistake, it's definitely a big play. And if three guys make a mistake, it's generally a touchdown. And so what we would have on things is one guy would take the wrong gap, one guy would get caught up in the wash, and another guy would take a bad angle or not close on the play, and bang, it's a touchdown. And that's been true since the beginning of time on anything. And for Ohio State I think they had 9. The ironic thing is Ohio State, the traditional definition of long scrimmage plays, and if you look at the definition of long scrimmage plays on college football stats or any of the advanced stats, we were 8th in the country in defending long scrimmage plays. 8th, because those are just defined as 10 plus yards. Now, when you get the longer ones, the 40 and 50, I think we gave up like 8 of those, and that put us near the bottom. But it's like we weren't giving up lots of 12s and 13s and 15s. We had 8 bad plays where people scored. So when people start talking about, it's some super exotic defense that's super crazy and it's stuff, no, that's not true. It's just not true. And it's not my opinion. It's the facts of just watching. Just go back and watch the tape. We're not running stuff that's wild and crazy and blitzing 9 guys from one side or blitzing all 11 and leaving nobody back. Or we run a 4-2-5. That's our base defense. Sometimes we walk a jack around and he lines up and tries to create kind of a mismatch on the line, or we're doing that in kind of early runs, kind of an early run blitz basically. But no, I don't think it's systemic. I think it was something that was kind of coincidental to some of the stuff that we were doing, and guys just weren't good at it. But we've talked about this before. But the jack position with Jack Sawyer, I think, was a mismatch. I don't think it worked. I don't think we'll see it next year, and at least certainly with that personnel. Maybe with a different person, it'd be a little bit better. But I just don't think it worked. I think every time that we ran it, I shouldn't say every time we ran it, but in limited times we ran it, I think we gave up a disproportionate number of big plays. But again, it's not exotic. It's a 4-2-5. It's a nickel defense. End of rant.
Good. That's a great head to bed rant. Cause I agree. I think it's just, you can have the perfect defense on paper, the perfect call, and if a guy doesn't get into his gap because he gets blocked or he just doesn't get there because he's a human being, and you give up a long run, that's just part of the game. If a guy falls down in coverage, that's part of the game. It sucks. It's unfortunate. It's not anything you can coach. Again, you could have the perfect play call, but the guys can't execute it because they slip or they get blocked or guys don't get to their gap, then it's tough. And, when I've watched every single snap of this season on all 22 film, on coaches film. I have a little setup, a little telestrator. I watch everything. The jack I thought was ineffective. I think that the flow of it didn't work right. I think that, you play Jack Sawyer there and he only plays 10 plays a game or whatever, 15 plays a game. That doesn't work right. I think guys like that need to play 40 plays a game, 50 plays a game, so they're truly in the rhythm instead of bringing him in cold and having him there and then him and Tommy don't hit the gap right or whatever. That's hard, and I don't know how well and Tommy Eichenberg's one of my favorite players of all time. I think he's a fantastic player, but sometimes guys like just having 4 down linemen in front of them. They don't like 3 guys and a walk around guy like Jack, and your gaps are different and the fits are different. Like, I think most linemen, they like that 4 down look, because then you're just used to what gaps to hit and where you have to be. And, this is kind of what we played 90% of the time. And then we run a little bit of the jack look, but no, this is not an exotic defense. I mean, it's not a 3-3-5 that a lot of teams are going to now. And I think that part of it was like, we just had guys that got rocked by Michigan's O-line. Like some of the guys up front got kicked all over the field, and that makes it really hard to play linebacker when your D linemen get thumped. So Is what it is. It's part of the gig. And this is a big year for some of these juniors that really wanted to play more. Now it's their time. There's no more Zach. There's no more Jerron Cage. No more Teron Vincent. They're all gone. So we'll see how the rotation works this year. I'm super excited about it. Any final words, Nevada, as we wrap this thing up?
Man, that steak looked good. I'm definitely gonna maybe go out and get like a late night steak or something like that. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited for spring ball. I feel bad for the Bengals, and I'm hungry for a steak with some truffle butter. So I'm off to steak land now.
Maybe we could have a segment called Scoop Eats. Get it?
I love it.
All right, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sunday night is late. It is past my bedtime. I can't believe how late it is. 11:30. Appreciate you guys being on here live. Great questions tonight. Thank you guys so much. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave us a like and click subscribe. We love doing this content with you guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in as always. It's a blast. If you enjoy this, BuckeyeScoop.com is the place for you. We had a crazy Bengals Chiefs thread. It was going nuts. People were really, really angry in it. It was kind of a roller coaster type thing, but it was, it's always fun. We always we'll have a Super Bowl thread, always good stuff cooking. So we appreciate you guys being on there. If you could, on your way out the door, leave us a like and click subscribe. If you enjoy our live content, please click on, there's a little bell that says alert. That'll give you a little alert every time we go live. We try to go live every night now. So we're going usually around 7 o'clock. So look for us. And we love cranking these out and catching up with you guys and seeing what questions you guys have. So a lot of news coming from Ohio State this week. Still could be some staff buzz coming, recruits, conditioning. We've got eyes everywhere. So we're always going to have updates for you guys. A lot of good content. So appreciate you guys. If you guys are on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Those are huge for us. Thank you so much for that. We have so much fun doing this with you guys, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We had a great time tonight with you guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.